Running through the 12 burning questions of the Buffalo Sabres heading into the season. Today, goaltending. What are we going to get out of the goalies? That's coming up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast.
Your Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody, and welcome into this Thursday edition of the Locked On Sabres podcast here in the heart of the offseason. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. That includes our YouTube channel where you can watch the show. Be sure to do that if you'd like. And if you would like to become a part of our Locked On Sabres text club, we gave you an update today about jersey numbers a little while ago, and we were talking about that in the chat. You can head over to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSabres if you are not already a subscriber to the text club. Sneaky Joe DiBiase. Today's episode is presented by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app right now. Visit FanDuel.com. Get $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Today on the show, a lot of goalie talk. The Sabres with a change this offseason. Alex Lyon coming in. UPL's future, who's going to play the most games this year. And I got some historical numbers for the Sabres going back 8 years. A very common thread about the Sabres in goal that is alarming and also not very surprising if you've been watching this team for that long, which sadly a lot of us have been doing. So we'll get to that coming up on today's show. Wanted to start with a couple of news items, though, and really one is jersey numbers. The Buffalo Sabres announcing that they got a fleet of new jersey numbers, new guys coming in, and they're also going to have one jersey number change. I don't know if this jersey number is being sold or if it's just being given or what, but Josh Norris is going to switch to number 9 from number 13. We actually talked about him on our last show, and I think I said that he's got an opportunity to be the best 13 in Sabres history. It's not going to happen because he's not going to be wearing number 13. So he's going to number 9. But you probably are realizing, wait a minute, number 9 is Zach Benson. Not anymore. Zach Benson is flipping that number right around, and he is going to be wearing number 6. Again, I don't know if Benson sold the number to Josh Norris because I believe Benson wore 9 at juniors. So Norris must have really wanted 9, or maybe Benson just didn't care. I don't know. But Benson's going to number 6. I have a couple of thoughts about Benson going to number 6. One, I don't like it. Not good for the vibes of Zach Benson taking a monster step forward, which I'm really hoping for. And I talk about him as much as any player on the team on this show. And him wearing 6, I just can't. I could, maybe something about the number 9. A lot of great players over time that have worn the number 9. And 6, it feels like a defenseman number, right? It's a defenseman number. Think of forwards that wear number 6. I was talking about this. We had a meeting at WGR this morning, and Bulldog is in, and we're talking about forwards that wore number 6. And he did point to Brock Besser, which is a very good one. And he's a good player. Brock Besser in Vancouver does wear number 6. I can't think of another forward that wears 6. It's a defenseman number. Absolutely. Marco Scandella announces retirement today from the NHL, former Sabres defenseman. That's a number 6. Jaroslav Spacek is a number 6. Who's a forward that wears a number 6? I can't think of one. If you go back in time throughout Sabres history, they've had 14 players that have worn 6. And some of these players I'm not going to know off the top of my head, like Al Hamilton in 1971. But Jim Schoenfeld for 11 years, 6. That's a defenseman. Phil Housley for 7 years. Now, he did play forward for the first year, but he was a defenseman. He played defense for most of his career. Basically all of it. That's a defenseman. Keith Carney for the Sabres, 93-94. That's a defenseman. Bob Bugner, 97-98. That's a defenseman. Corey Sarich, that's a defenseman. Jaro Spacek, Mike Weber, Cody Franson, Marco Scandella, Ethan Prow, and Eric Johnson. All defensemen. Everybody. Everybody. Doug Huda in the 90s. defensemen. Actually, if you go back, Al Hamilton, I'm looking up now, that guy from the 71 season, he was a defenseman. The Ron Fisher played a couple games for the Sabres in 1982, defenseman. In fact, it does appear that all 14 of these Sabre players that have worn number 6 in their history, other than Phil Housley in year 1, were defensemen. And Benson is going to be wearing it at forward. Weird. Now, whatever, doesn't actually matter. But the thing that is annoying that the Sabres announced today, and this is just kind of the Sabres right now, right? Like, they have this reputation of trying to nickel and dime everything, and they really can't help themselves, and they just walk into this type of stuff a lot. For years, I'm thinking way back when my brother was a huge Derek Roy fan. Funny enough, it's same number 9. He was a huge Derek Roy fan. And 10 years ago, more than that even, they traded him for Steve Ott. And I remember the Sabre store offered for free to swap the nameplate. You bring in your Roy nameplate and we'll change it out for Ott. And my brother did that. So now he's got a Steve Ott jersey, which I think looking back, he might hope he still had the Roy nameplate, but whatever. They did it for free. And then, funny, 9 keeps switching. Eichel takes 9 after Evander Kane leaves. And I believe, I was trying to find it, but I believe I found that they did that for free. If you had a Kane jersey, you can come in and you could get it for Eichel. There was like a jersey swap. If you had a 15 Eichel, come in and you get a 9. Here, jersey switch, and the Sabre store says they'll offer it for purchase, which I don't know what the price is. Maybe it's $5, but I tend to think it's not. I don't know, though. I'm just guessing. But not offering that for free is a miss. It's so easy for the Sabres to just offer that for free. Teams do it all the time. They've done it. They've set the precedent that they'll do it. And here, with a mad, angry fan base, you should be taking every opportunity like that to build up some brownie points with your fan base. Like just a gesture of goodwill. Like, hey, we know it's really hard to be a fan of this team right now. So the least we can do is take your $200 hockey jersey that you bought for your son and bring it in, drive downtown. Not everybody lives right downtown. Most people don't. Drive downtown, bring in your jersey, and then come back another time and pick it up. And, we'll do it. We'll on us. We'll get that corrected for you. And they're like, no, we're going to charge you. We're going to charge you for it on top of that. And that's a miss. Giant miss. Not giant. I don't want to go too far with it. Small miss by the Sabres to not just offer that to their fans for free. And then the other jersey numbers, if you are interested for this season, and you want to know who these guys are, Josh Doan's going to be wearing number 91, Noah Ostlund, 86, Michael Kesselring, number 8. I like that for him. Justin Danforth wearing number 15, Connor Timmins wearing number 21, and then Alex Lyon, who we'll talk about today, wearing number 34. And I like that number for Alex Lyon. And we'll talk a lot about Lyon and goaltending on today's show as we get right into it, as he's the new guy in town. And for the first time in 3 years, the Buffalo Sabres plan going into the regular season does not involve Devon Levi being in the NHL. 23-24, after the Buffalo Sabres don't make the playoffs and Devon Levi shows up for 7 games, looks really good. He's the number 1 going into the season. The number 1 goaltender. Right in, throw him to the Wolves, played a couple of games, got hurt, didn't go that great, and he ends up in Rochester eventually. But going into the year, he was the plan. And they had to back off that eventually, and Eric Comrie had to play more games in the NHL, which was not fun. And luckily for the Sabres, Luukkonen had a nice year. Last year, going in, what's the plan? We're going to have a training camp battle between Devon Levi and James Reimer. We come out of training camp. We come out of the preseason. Who's the guy that won the job? Levi. How do I know that? They waived James Reimer. They went to Prague to start last season with 2 goaltenders on the roster, Luukkonen and Levi. Reimer got claimed by Anaheim. He was gone on another team. And only when he was put back on waivers by the Ducks was it then available to the Sabres to bring him back and send Levi to Rochester. Maybe they would have added a goalie from somewhere else. I don't know. But going into the season, Reimer's gone. Levi was your plan. Didn't work. Last year, statistically even worse for him. He goes back to Rochester and performs really nice there as well. This year, Sabres finally say, okay, no. We got to give him some grooming time. Let us be patient with him. Go to Rochester, and we're going to fill that spot. We're just going to fill that spot. And they did with Alex Lyon, who, if you go back and look, and we had this discussion in July, but if you went through the goaltending free agents, the number one goalie free agent for most was out in New Jersey, Jake Allen. Jake Allen didn't move. He stayed right in Jersey. He stayed at home and re-signed. So he never really made it to market. The number one goalie on that list of guys that changed teams this offseason was Alex Lyon. He was the number one goalie free agent, honestly. And I like the player. He's not this long resume starting goalie that's been doing it for a long time. I mean, it's really only been the last 2 seasons that he's been a consistent, regular NHL goaltender, but it's looked pretty good in 2.25 seasons. 14 starts before that helped propel Florida over the Buffalo Sabres into the playoffs. Now, why Lyon is important is because I think he gives them a better shot at doing something that they have not done in 9 years, which is finish within the top 15 in the NHL in save percentage. That's how long it's been. Get to some of those rankings, how often teams make the playoffs when they're not at least achieving that. I got numbers on Lyon, UPL, who's going to play the most. A lot coming up on goalie, coming up on the Lockdown Sabres podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL season is so close. We're only a couple of hours away, and FanDuel's making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. And that could be player props. That's what I like looking at this time of year, especially in week one. Like, Week 1, nobody really knows. So if you think you got a hunch on something, I mean, it's the Wild West in Week 1. So opportunity to look a little bit smarter than everybody else. Player props, especially for that. You build your same game parlay. You can even jump in live as the action unfolds. So make your game a little bit more exciting. You know, you want a little extra in your guys on your fantasy team. Maybe you want to, hedge against your guys on your fantasy team. You could do that as well. So you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now. Visit FanDuel.com. Get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet today. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. We're talking about the goaltending situation, as that to me is the number 2 burning question going into this season. Number 1 for me is, what is Josh Norris going to give you as your number 1 center? Number 2 is, what comes of goaltender? Because as the Sabres have gone through this playoff drought, especially part 2 of the playoff drought, which is for the most of it, the Eichel era and beyond, the Sabres have not finished inside the top 15 in save percentage, team save percentage. And there are better ways to measure goaltending success than save percentage, but for sake of conversation, I'm just going to use that here. Since 2016-17, they have not finished inside the top 15. And every year but one, they have finished outside the top 20 in that time period. Now, what's funny is I'm going through this and I'm going, how far back do I have to go to find a good goalie year? And I was actually surprised to see that 2 years ago, the year that Luukkonen really had a big season, it was only 15th. That's the year. 23-24, they finished 15th. 16-17, going way back in the drought now, they finished 4th, which, thinking of that season, if you can rewind enough, How in the world did that team finish with 78 points when they were 4th in save percentage? Does not make any sense at all. Inventing ways to miss the playoffs. The Sabres have found almost every way to miss the playoffs during this playoff drought. That year, if you'll remember, is the year that Eichel dealt with some injury right at the beginning of the year. That's the final O'Reilly year. No, sorry, there's one more O'Reilly year, then that's it. It's the Ristolainen, Okposo, Kane, Gianta, Foligno, Molson. That team should have been better. Goaltender wise is probably what you're really wondering. Robin Leonard and Anders Nielsen. 9, and Ullmark started 1 game, but mostly Nielsen and Leonard by save percentage. That's the best season they've had. They had a .921 save percentage between the two of them, which is very good. Very good. That was the best year Leonard had. Started 58 games. Nielsen was awesome as a backup. Some advanced numbers will show that Leonard wasn't as good as that save percentage number, but that's the best they've had. Since then, save percentage by team, 29th, 22nd, 22nd, 25th, 26th, 22nd, 15th, and last season, the worst of them, 30th. Last year, the Buffalo Sabres were 30th in save percentage. What would be a success? We asked this question about Norris a little bit. I got a lot of, you give me 25 goals, and I'm going to call that a win. For goalie, I think you got to be a top 10 team. For it to be a win, high bar to clear, and Luukkonen and Lyon on paper, not a top 10 duo going into the year in the NHL. Definitely can find more than 10 teams that have better goalie situations going into the year. But goalie's weird, and you've got a guy, a veteran in here that's been pretty good the last 2 seasons that I believe gives them a better shot at being a top 10 goalie team. Now, for that to happen, I would like to see Lyon get the majority of the starts, get 50 of the starts, Luukkonen somewhere in the 30s, and then Levi somewhere around 7 to 10. That to me is that your best case scenario? It's hard to say Luukkonen not doing that is your best case scenario. I guess I just feel it's more likely that Lyon will give you that year than Luukkonen will. And that if Luukkonen were to play 50 games, while this is the difference here. If Lyon plays 50 plus games for the Sabres this year, it is because he's performing really well. That is, in my opinion, that's how that happens. If Luukkonen plays 50 plus games, it could be because he's playing really well, but it also could be Luukkonen by default. Lyon coming in and this guy is new Carter Hutton, really great as a number 2 or a 1B, but I don't really want to be my number 1. So he's going to play 30 games and Levi's not ready. So if those two things happen, Luukkonen doesn't even have to play great. And I think they might ride him to say, we just got to figure out if we can get anything out of this guy before he starts, getting up there in his 20s. So I think Luukkonen could play by default. If Lyon plays that many games, I think it's probably going really well for him. So I say top 10. And for that to happen, I'd like to see Lyon play the majority of the games. Their numbers in the past couple of years, I'll step it up from save percentage here to go to Fenwick save. Delta Fenwick save percentage, which is pretty complicated, but was actually, one Evolving Hockey is a stat site that I use a lot. And I was looking for the number goals saved above expected per 60. Because I think if you just do the total, that could be a volume stat a lot of times. I wanted it more per minute, per 60 minutes, obviously. And I was emailing back and forth with them. They pointed me to Delta Fenwick save percentage. That's a number I'm going to start using a little bit more that you might hear me reference. That's basically what that is. I guess goals saved above expected per 60 minutes. And in that number, that category, which I guess is kind of, how much above what you're supposed to save do you save? Out of 71 goalies last season in that number, Lyon ranked 32nd, Luukkonen ranked 56th. And it's the same basically if you expand that time period to the last 3 years. If I go out the last 3 years, out of 97 goalies, Luukkonen 57th, Lyon still 32nd. So he's been a better goalie the last 3 years. He just definitively. has been a better goalie. And he did push his team into a playoff spot. And that in Florida a couple years ago when they barely made it. And that is what you're looking for him to do here. So I think Lyon is the guy and should be the guy. I'd like to see him play night number 1. But at the moment, I bet Luukkonen probably will get that. Here's the thing. Contracts. Lyon's only got a 2-year deal. Luukkonen's got a bunch of years left. Let's get to when we come back. If it goes that way and Lyon is their number 1 and Levi is still on the way, what does the future hold for Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen? That when we come back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that'll bring your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch's built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally, feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNHL. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here in the Locked On Sabres podcast. Football starts tonight. Hockey always does this thing where football starts and the football offseason is so long that it can make you think the hockey offseason is just as long. Like, hey, football will start and then months will go by and then hockey will start. It always sneaks up on me because we are weeks away from training camp and weeks away from the preseason. And football starts tonight, and it's like, bam, you get a couple of weeks of it, and then hockey joins in on the party. And obviously for a lot of fans, especially nowadays with the Bills being so good and the Sabres being so terrible, that the fall is all about the football. And, you know, hockey, maybe you'll check in here and there and get into it in the spring. But we obviously appreciate our listeners that are all in on the Sabres all the time, all in the NHL all the time. And very quickly, before we get back to the goalie conversation, Connor McDavid, there's a I'm going to call it a report. Chris Johnston was talking from Sportsnet this morning, and he made a comment about McDavid, who has not signed an extension with Edmonton. And the update from Johnston was that when he talks about wanting to win in Edmonton, which McDavid has said recently, like, I want to win at Edmonton. I really do. Johnston said, I fully believe that is the case. The chance to win again and again is what matters to him. I think there might be a little bit of trepidation there. That is big. It's big. That is the first clue of what McDavid is thinking. And that clue is basically, I don't know if these guys can keep giving me shots at a cup like this. And I think that while you might say, Connor McDavid, buddy, you've been in the finals back-to-back seasons. We're here in Buffalo, like, you shouldn't be complaining. You got a chance to win every single year. You're making it to the finals, but he doesn't live in that world. McDavid, kind of like Josh Allen, plug him on any team and it's going to be a playoff team. Plug him in on any team and that's going to be a Stanley Cup contender. I think for the most part, more than any hockey player, that's true. And he now knows what the competition is. He's played the Panthers twice and he's got to know we've given it our best shot 2 years and haven't got the job done. That team's all coming back. They're all staying together. What should make me believe that my Oilers team is going to have a better chance against that Florida team or whoever would beat that Florida team going forward, especially when no one really thought he wanted to be there in the first place when he got drafted. And two, yeah, the grass isn't always greener. Well, in this case, it might be. There are a lot of teams he could go to. I will continue to point to Tampa. I think Tampa is the destination. I think that's the team he ends up with if he leaves. And if he has a little bit of trepidation about Edmonton winning, I don't think he has to have that about the Lightning. I think that is going to be a team that he could jump in on, and they'll be amazing for at least 3 to 5 years. And when I say amazing, I mean a level of amazing that's even above what he is with Edmonton. Okay, back to the Sabres and the goalie situation. I asked before the break, Luukkonen. If Lyon takes his job this year, what's the future hold for Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen? He is into year 2 of a 5-year contract extension that pays him $4.75 million per year. Lyon is under contract this year and next year. Devon Levi is on his small little deal that he just signed as an RFA, and he's still developing, but eventually you'll think he's an NHL goalie. So, in my opinion, the situation I laid out where Lyon is the better goalie and just basically it goes the way it's gone the last 3 years where Lyon's better and he's the guy, then I believe Luukkonen's the odd man out. And there was a rumor from Elliot Friedman, remember, at the beginning of the offseason, where he said that he believed that Luukkonen's name has been out there. Nothing came of that, and we really never even heard another peep about Luukkonen. It was just that one line on one podcast back in the spring. So it's not much, but it was said by the biggest insider in the sport, and then it was just left at that. So I believe Friedman on that his name had been discussed. So if they've already thought about moving on from him, and that was only after 1 year of that contract, if he puts together another stinker of a season, which if he does that, that'll be 4 full years in the NHL, and 3 of them will be underwhelming. To be kind, underwhelming. That's probably what the guy is at that point. So you find a way to get rid of him. You find a way to trade him. You maybe have to eat a little bit of salary, or maybe there's just another team that believes in him that'll take on the $4.75 million and give him a shot. But I think that's a trade that could even happen in the middle of the year. If Levi looks dominant in Rochester and Lyon has taken the number 1 job and Luukkonen's not playing well, I'm ready to get him off the team. And I'm ready to go Lyon and Levi for the next year and a half. But at the beginning of the season, Luukkonen's either the starter or he's definitely getting a shot to beat out Alex Lyon as the guy. But middle of the year, if that situation plays out, and I think that's realistic, I think he could be on his way out. And I would be a fan of that. If you listen to this show over the years, you know I've never really been the biggest Luukkonen guy. I think as evidence piles in more and more, it seems to me that season he had in 23-24, which was a good season, is the anomaly. And that is not even just his NHL time. That's his AHL time. That is his, a very brief ECHL time if you want it, but more so AHL time. It's been a long time since this guy was consistently good at any level of hockey. Go back to the OHL and Sudbury for that, where he's put together back-to-back good seasons. And maybe he doesn't need to do that. Maybe he could just go every other his entire Sabre career, and that'll work for them. But I think Luukkonen's future is in doubt. With the goalie they added in Lyon and Levi, I still believe being on track to being an NHL goaltender. So we'll see how it goes. And again, I think, however, if Luukkonen and Lyon can perform really well, then that's what's going to give this team the best shot to make the playoffs. Because again, one more time, I'll read for you. Their ranking by save percentage by year, starting last year and going back: 30th, 15th, 22nd, 26th, 25th, 22nd, 22nd, 29th. Absolutely pathetic. Absolutely has to be better than that. That'll do it for us today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. We will continue our series here as we go through the 12 burning questions surrounding the Buffalo Sabres. Next up on the show, we are going to get to a little bit more on some of the individual players. And for that, we've already done Zach Benson a lot this offseason. I want to get to the blue line. How good is the blue line really going to be? And that's going to be a lot of Michael Kesselring because he's the new guy in town. But I saw Greg Wyshynski rank this team's blue line as a second-tier blue line out of like 5 tiers, like a good blue line. A lot of people are saying that. Well, let's see. Let's get into that on our next show. How strong is the strength of the Buffalo Sabres, their defensemen? That on our next show. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. Again, if you want more on McDavid or the Olympic stuff that's been coming out, be sure to check out Locked On NHL. That's available wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube as well, if you want to watch that show too. So check it out. That'll do for us. Talk to you tomorrow here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.